Iron Stories, Episode 24, Return. Welcome back to another episode of Iron Stories. Yeah, last time we finished up with Nessana and created a bit of backstory and world building maybe on what goes on with this corruption, this iron corruption or whatever this is, this iron curse maybe even, that has befallen the lands, and it has been quite some years since the corruption has started, or as the events from Kaivan. And the last thing we did, or the last thing that Katania did, was to strike a deal, more or less, or basically do a vow to Nessana to help her get her sword back, her silver sword back from Kaivan's body that probably still lies within the Holdfast Barrow, where he was slain by unknown entities, or at least unknown to Nessana. So yeah, and they even get a good head start of that, and then they took took a rest there, made camp at the encampment of Nessana herself, to gather a bit their strength before the next morning, before they would venture out. And I did some figuring out on what I want to do here with her. So I also created a character sheet for Nessana herself. It's not entirely completely filled out, but most of it is, and I gave her more or less a structure. Of course, we have some backstory of her already heard, but it's not that fully fleshed out yet, specifically when it comes to bonds, because it's something that's more let's say more mysterious about her, what exactly that bond had, or it's something that we have to find out ourselves anyway. So for her, so I quickly go over her character sheet as far as I created it. So I've created her as more of a character that is that works from the shadows, that works with finesse and not more with brute, which is maybe something a bit counteracting what Jebran and Katania are, mostly Jebran, but Katania also to some extent. So she has edge too, so she is that's more her nimble nature, of being in that lass. So she's more of that hard one, which makes sense. She's more of a closed off person, more of a cold person out to the outside, and it's also what Katania and Jebran maybe experienced herself or themselves. She also has an iron of one, so she isn't the best. She doesn't have that much strength. And she doesn't do that. But she makes it up with Shadow 3. So she works mostly from the shadows. So she tries to basically get the upper hand to an enemy, to a foe, from the shadows, and that's what also what they experienced. That they didn't saw her, and she basically blends into the forest more And she has wits of 2. Again, that's more of her nature to find clues, act from the shadows, and be more work more with finesse than with pure strength. Which is reflected in her weak iron skill or iron attribute. So that goes for her attributes. She basically just has 1 wow for the moment, which is her background wow base, more or less like so they investigate and exterminate the source of the iron corruption within the Dark Forest and Tanglewood of Forbidden Blood now, or the Holdfast Barrow. So that's more her. That's why she was sent out basically anyway for centuries ago from her people. And I gave that a menace because it makes sense. Because San the Bloodied is basically the probably the corruption, or works with the corruption or within the corruption to counteract that goal for her. So this makes sense, I think, for her. So as I said, she wears basically a mask, and which is nice because from the assets herself, she has there is an asset that's called Masked. And it's basically a mask made out of ghost wood, and we'll come to that later. And she, for the moment, holds because what we've seen with Kaivan, that they believe more in silver weapons instead of iron weapons. So she has a silver sword and currently a dagger, and basically her other silver sword is with Kaivan. So she is more fighting with 2 weapons. She's this 2-weapon fighter, but she wants to have like her second sword back to be fighting more efficiently. But she currently just fighting with sword and dagger, which is fine as well. So then she has some assets, of course. I've given her 3 of them, which makes a lot of sense in her character as well. So she has the Path Masked. Makes sense. Once you mark a bond with elves and are gifted a mask of precious elderwood, so basically she is an elf. She doesn't have to be making a bond with elf, so she has them one herself, or not elf, but not Laz in my world, where they all have masks anyway. And so she gets one of Ghostwood. And how this happens is that masks are normally associated to an attribute and to either health or spirit. And Ghostwood is basically mapped to the attribute of shadow and spirit as resource basically. So again, as I said, it makes sense for her character because she's more working in the shadows, that she has this thing, and basically it helps her make better moves with shadows. So she basically gets a flat +4 on shadow, which can get her to 10 on the action die. Of course, this doesn't help her because she has to surpass 10, so it doesn't work. And she has of course, it has a drawback. And she has the Combat Talent Swordmaster. Again, she's wielding 2 swords, or wielding at least 1 sword. So she gets she can burn momentum to inflict harm or more harm to it. So that's good. And she has a ritual Shadow Walk, which when you cloak yourself with the Gossamer Wheel of the Shadow Realms, roll +Shadow. On a strong attack, +1 momentum. Then reroll any dice 1 time only when you make a move by ambushing, hiding, or sneaking. So she basically she can use her shadow walk to hide herself in the shadow and basically do be more able to sneak and ambush and hide, which makes a lot of sense for her in that sense. So that's basically her. So I didn't give her more, as I said, I didn't give her any bonds yet because I wouldn't necessarily know what bonds she has. She probably has some bonds with her people, but it's nothing I would guess specific. And from a world building point of view, it's not something that we would know at this point, because the original people of these lands, like the Nutlas and the other ones, the born out of stone, out of the mountains. What did I call them? I called them not Karn, those burned from the rocks, which are basically the giants. So they have the Nutlas and the not Karn, which makes sense. There may be some others, because I would probably something from the sea, maybe. I will see. So yeah, that's basically for her. And now I'm traveling with 3 characters, because I think it makes sense to that she accompanies them as well on their quest, because now it's more of a question of she knows, okay, she didn't want to go back to the Holdfast Barrow alone, but now that she has like help, she thinks they have a better chance of surviving the perils that might come in the Barrow. So yeah, as I said, they made camp here and in her encampment, in her I think she traveled a bit, or Nessana did hide herself in the forest to go take some watch maybe, while this Katania and Jebran made camp and took the night. And next to the warm fire, they can or they feel a bit more relaxed. The warmth of the fire helps them find sleep easier and faster than they would have thought. And they wake up in the morning, but it's hard to tell. There's just a few rays of light coming from that find their way through the thicket of the crowns of the trees. So maybe Nessana built her encampment here as well, at a spot where there might be a bit more light than everything else. And then we've seen that with Kaivan already. This forest has a tendency to block out light, and now even more that corruption has spread here for such a long time that it is even darker than it would have been 100 years ago. But still, there's just a few rays of light finding their way through it. But it's just that it just gives it this dimly lit, spooky kind of vibe. And on the forest floor, there's still this fog, cold fog, dark fog that emanates from everywhere, it seems. But it seems to be that somewhat the encampment from Nessana is somewhat like shielded, or that this fog takes round of this encampment. So it seems to be some sort of like spell or ritual has been cast here which protects or creates a bubble or a zone of protection in this encampment. So which is also what Katania and Jebran see when they wake up, that there is this fog which is normally lingering in the morning, which is not something unusual, but it seems to it's more darker and more sinister and emanates a bit of coldness, so to speak, if you go near it. And it seems to be like almost like flowing, like like on an invisible wall past this encampment in a circular way, foreboding or waiting for them to step into it and get lost or whatever, or get corrupted, which is the ultimate goal of whatever power lies here, to as Nessana has explained, to entrap them and corrupt them and turn them to tools for spreading this iron corruption even further into the land. So they get up and they prepare themselves a bit better, and then Nessana takes them and points them where they should go. And since I rolled, as I said, I think last time when I did the opportunity, the Iron Wow, I scored an opportunity. So for most part, they are traveling to the Holdfast Barrow without that much of a problem, or of anything else that's coming against them. It's I think even last time with Kaivan, it wasn't that far away from the camp itself. I think it was quite near anyway, so so they should make it in a reasonably amount of time. So yeah, they are they're able to get there. Yeah, they make it to and here Jebran and Katania can see the amount of corruption that has spread here. So they are now more aware on how this looks like, or how it could look like. So as they get nearer to the nearer and nearer to the Holdfast Barrow, it gets darker and darker. The light that has come from above is dimming out even more and more as they come closer to the barrow. It even seems that like these trees have grown a thicker crown just to block out more light from where they came from where they're standing near the Holdfast Barrow. So it gets darker and darker, even close to twilight, close to even getting even coming close to dawn, if not night. So it gets darker and darker, and the fog underneath them at first gets thicker and thicker, and then it gets it slowly even rises up. So where they started just with their feet within the fog, it now reaches up to the knees, I would say, even. So it gets thicker and larger and or more voluminous as they get closer to the barrows themselves. But it seems to be mostly uneventful, and there might be just the odd, because the fog is blocking their view of the ground. It's of course becomes harder to navigate this, and they are walking more slowly, so they do not trip that easily over things that are hidden more or less from their view. And as they come closer to the barrow themselves, I would even say that they start to light up some torches that they've brought with them, just to shed some light, because Katania and Jebran are not able to see that much with the fog and with even less and less light. And the fog itself again is emanating emanating this strange coldness that gives that chills them, and they have to like close up their fur coats even more to trap the warmth, the few bits of warmth they still have within them. And they're a bit confused, but they find it a bit interesting that Nessana doesn't seem to be that much affected by that coldness herself, either because she has been accustomed to it over all these years, or there's something else going on, but they don't really know. And they also have sometimes a hard time to keep up with her, so they lose sight of her oftentimes, even with the light from the torch that they have. But they oftentimes lose the sight of her, and then she suddenly like appears back again in their view, beckoning them to come to her direction. So it seems to be like she's like going in and out of their view, scouting maybe even ahead in the shadows that they cannot see. And the darkness here, of course, helps Nessana more than it helps Jebran and Katania, because Nessana is more living within the shadows and uses the shadow even to navigate and to hide from whatever might lurk in the shadows themselves. And the torches, again, similar to as with what we've seen with Kaivan, they shed light, but they shed light in a much more confined way. There isn't that big of a radius where it illuminates, so the fog is like trying to fight back against the torch itself, or against the light of the torch itself. It's just a dim light in a narrow space, and this of course makes it even harder to navigate or to see where Nessana is going, because they do not see that much ahead. But as I said, they will reach the Holdfast Barrow without much of an issue. There isn't much that they've seen, if anything, that would have made their travel to the barrow harder or slower. They don't know exactly how long they traveled. They lost. It could have not been more than like 1 or 2 hours where they trotted through the forest to get there. Of course, not seeing the sun where it stands within the sky, and lighting conditions changing anyway within here, it becomes hard for them to pinpoint exactly what hour it would be, how long they would have been traveling. They only have this feeling themselves, but it becomes unclear at some point when you just travel and have to like concentrate on other things to survive, basically, and to fight back the cold and darkness itself. It becomes a blur on how long they've been traveling so far. So it disorients them in that sense a bit. So they losing maybe the track of time. They losing their track even of position within world, so they don't even have a clue much, because they can't navigate. Again, they don't see the sky. They can't navigate with what they see from the sky to see landmarks or something like that to make a sense of where they are within the grand scheme of world. Of course, you don't necessarily know. They don't have like GPS or something like that we have now, but you still know where you are in the world, more or less, just from seeing landmarks and stuff. So, for example, if you see I don't think even if you take, for example, Ayers Rock from Australia as an example, so you can use this as a sort of navigation point because it's a high mountain that has a very distinct form and structure. So you can, depending on what side you see, and you can navigate around it. So that would be like some sort of landmark. But I mean, they're in the forest anyway currently, which they cannot see the sky or even any landmarks anyway. So, but so yeah, they don't have, they're disoriented. They don't know where they are exactly. They don't know what time it is exactly, or how much time has passed. And this, of course, adds to the eeriness of the darkness that surrounds them, of the eeriness of this fog, of the cold that is emanating from it. Even more so even more than what a normal morning coldness would bring. But they reach it, and it's the outside looks just similar as what it has looked like back in the times of Kaivan. There is nothing. Maybe there's just more. So the wines and things that have grown back, of course, but Nessana can just cut them away from the entrance that goes deeper into the barrow itself. There's this staircase that goes down to the real barrow itself that's underneath this small hill in the middle of the forest. She cuts away just some of the wines, and the wines, they're not they have this just sickly brown, grey, even mostly blackish tint to them. They didn't grow naturally, or they didn't grow very healthily. It's just, everything is just this dark and grey, like dead plants or dead things, and even if they're there to touch it, it just crumbles apart like old paper. So it just crumbles apart as soon as they touch it, and even as the sun strikes it, it more breaks away than it cuts away. It just crumbles onto the floor, and the flowers, when they crumble, they turn to ash, flowers that the greenery basically just turns to ash, crumbles to ash when they touch it. And they have seen more and more of this the closer they got to the barrow, but it seems to still hold structure again. And it seems odd that even though that things are this brittle and things, that it doesn't, like, everything just crumbles inward. It seems to be that the trees somehow, even though they have also this darkish color, they seem to be still solid and holding their weight. So Nessana stops and tells them, so we're here. This is where it all began for this. Be prepared. It's nothing that you've experienced before, I guess. What we seek is very deep within this this complex, or this barrow, and it is a tomb of some sort of a creature that lied here. And we might see things that you've never seen before. Dead people walking again, and attacking you. You should make swift. You should take care of them as swiftly as you can, and try not to come into close contact with them if possible. I don't know exactly if it could be, how dangerous it is, how the corruption will spread to you if you get cut, or if you get too close to something like that. Yeah, that's basically what she says, and then steps down into the barrow itself, and Jebran and Katania are following behind her in a careful matter. What they've seen, Jebran is not really happy, but is nodding when Nessana tells about dead people walking, nodding in acknowledgement, or in basically telling or telegraphing her, yeah, we saw something similar to this already. And he's not really happy to, of course, to find something, find something here again in this part. So they travel down the same steps and stairs as they did with as Kaivan did before so long. And they come to this passageway, to this maze-like structure within the front of the barrow. What we established last time. So there's like two parts of this barrow. There's a front where basically like guards have been put in that should guard this, or where the guard is buried for when they imprisoned San the Bloodied deeper within the complex. So they put in a guard regiment in front of it, that they buried here when they died, of course. And then there is a central structure where there's the stone entrance to the tomb, basically. So there's basically, before that is the maze is basically also to like circumvent. If they should escape, they will have a hard time, and they have more time to fight them back again if they would manage to escape in the early days, because they buried them alive within the deeper of the complex. So they just had to be here for a few days before they would probably die off within the complex itself. So yeah, that's basically. So they're starting off in this passages, in this maze-like structure, that is the front of the Holdfast Barrow, and as Jebran is, he at some point he is then the one that wants to take helm himself. So he is the one that wants to go first, maybe in some part as protection again for Katania, but also maybe to show some form of strength to Nessana herself. Jebran is delving the depths here. With I think he would still do this with observation intuition. I don't think he would go in here with haste or something. I would say it's more in his area to see where he can go through, to make sense of the maze even. So he rolls plus wits on that, and it's a miss. Okay, that doesn't start well. Okay, so Jebran misses here, so that means I have to reveal a danger. Of course, I have to reveal a danger. How else could it be? You face an environmental or architectural hazard. Yeah, that makes sense. As I said, this is a maze-like structure here. So it's most natural here that they lose themselves in here. That they have no clue where to go next. Even though he tried to find a way through this maze-like structure, but he wasn't really aware of it specifically. He basically just looked for signs of enemies or signs of stuff. So it becomes becomes more. So he just like takes branches as he sees fit without really structure, and at some point they become lost within this passageway, within this structure, which was totally the intent of the constructors, that it is a maze, that it is a labyrinth where you cannot just quickly escape, where the ones that have more intimate knowledge with the layout of it, of course, have an advantage and can ambush you or can drive you back from wherever you came, and yeah, so they definitely become lost here. Within this structure, and it becomes even unsettling for them because they pass as I said before, so this structure even is also like the burial place of the protectors of the things, and so they see this alcove within the walls, where they have put these protectors or these soldiers to rest, but in contrast, what we've seen with Kaiwan, where they're like laying skeletons in here, there are none to be found here. There's just this empty alcoves here, and so they pass them with them, so they see this at least, but at some point, Jebran thinks, didn't I see that one again, or that one already? Because of course the alcoves, they're built not all exactly the same, of course, because they have been constructed not by machine or by whatever means, but they're handcrafted, so to speak. So they have some distinct features of them. Maybe one of them has like an edge that is broken off or something like that. So Jebran at some point has a sense of deja vu when they encounter again, and he then begins to he tries to make like marks to see, and sure enough, they pause it again at some point, but he maybe a bit proud by himself, is more of thinking of I'm not implying that I'm lost, but I don't really have a clue here. And Nessana, it's that is because Jebran at some point he pushed away and got to the front to lead them, and she becomes more annoyed than anything when she sees and Nessana at some point is probably figuring out that Kaivan is lost. It doesn't have a clue where he is. So I would say that she then takes point, but she is moving quite differently through here. She is not trying to find. She's not trying to look at or to look at her environment to find out where to go, but she's more she tries more to be stealthy, of course, which is within her nature, because she mostly tries to so if there is something hidden within this maze, then she'd rather she then would see it and it wouldn't see her, so she would still have the element of surprise against it if she sees something. It's not she might be quickly surprised by it, so oh shit, there is something there, but she at least would be in the shadows and could see, so she tries to use that less her observational skills, because she at this point knows, okay, we're anyway we're anyway lost here, wherever this guy put us in this situation, so let's make the best of it and just delve through it. Of course, she still has some trick in her sleeve, so similar, because Jebran is still marking off as they go where they have been. She, of course, can use that to navigate a bit within her to try to not take the same path twice or something like that. So to get along here, and she knows a bit better this structure here anyway, because she has been here before with Kaivan already. So she has a bit the advantage here. So she travels through his shadow, and since now she travels with shadow, I can use her asset, which is masked, because I use that as a stat, so I can modify it again. So that's very advantageous for her. So to that, yeah. So she definitely makes it. Unfortunately, I roll a 1 here, so now I have to think about it. So what I don't get here is, so the asset speaks of when you wear the mask and make a move which uses its stat, add +1. If you roll a 1 on your die, suffer -1 to the associated track, in addition to any other outcome of the move. Which, what I don't understand is this now I just basically negate the +1, or is it then, so I basically just have, because I rolled a 1, which is with my +4 is a 5. So I would suffer -1 to the track. Does this mean it's a permanent thing or whatever? But nevertheless, it would mean that I would now be a 4 instead of a 5, but it would still be a hit, even a strong hit, because the challenge dice just say 3. So yeah, I just played for now that it just basically negates the +1 on it, so it's a 4 instead of a 5 that I roll now, but it's still successful. And it even says I mark the progress and find an opportunity here. So yeah, that's for sure. Nessana has an opportunity. So I mark progress here on the thing, which is I put the Holdfast Barrow back to what it was before. Is a formidable thing here, and formidable site. So now they find an opportunity here as well. An aspect of the history or nature of this place is really, it's not that much. But I would say at this point, she is able to navigate the barrow better. As I said, this is something where she was before. She accompanied a Kaivan here before, and so she would be she's more likely to find her way, and she's more likely to remember where it did go. And she maybe even delved in the past down here, but she didn't dare to travel further because what I would say that they end up back in this room, in this previously safe room before, in this room before this big stone door, which now lies wide open, and the altar that has been built here is completely wrecked. It was already completely wrecked, or it was already destroyed somewhat when Kaivan entered the barrow the second time. It had a crack already in it, and it was the worms and columns that it emanated has been lost, but now it's just completely broken completely from its place, and where the door was just slightly open last time, the stone slab that was put on it that should have hold it back to be opened, where it has fallen down, is now completely in one part of the room. So it can be seen here that whatever was in there has broken free, and it has done so with power, with destruction and corruption behind its wake. That's what they see here, but they come back to this room, and Nessana feels somewhat a not nostalgia, but she feels the weight of this room. She feels the history of this room, and I would even say all the time as they travel through the barrow. I would even say that Katania, because she is in link with, she has this spiritual link. She basically trotted behind them, taking it all in. But for her, even it is. She would have normally expected to be more spirits in here, to be that the voices, there would be more voices in here, because of course this is a burial place, there's dead people here, so it has to be something that's so there should be a lot of dead people here and a lot of spirits of them, but she can't sense, or she can't hear that many voices. She doesn't hear like this cacophony of voices and noises that she normally would hear in places like this. She only can hear, of course, the voice of the spirit trapped within her blade. The bond that she made with the blade itself, of the keen that she has, of Themon, of the boy that she once knew, that normally isn't within this blade, but even he is quieter than normal, quieter than that. But as soon as they enter this room, Katania can sense just beyond the stone entrance, beyond there, where it goes deeper into the tomb of Thorn himself. She can just sense one voice, one spirit that is beyond that door, beyond in the darkness, that seems to be calling out even to her. And she guesses that it's maybe the lost spirit of Kaivan himself, that it's still lingering down there. And she feels kind of sadness, kind of the pain of that soul, of that spirit. And on that note, we end the session here. Again, so yeah, it's interesting, or it's fun to come back to a place I've visited before, to see maybe something different than before from it. So yeah, we will see or hear us in the next episode then.